Good afternoon and good morning to all joining us from around Australia, the APAC region and further globally. My name is Davor Stanek and I'm the Manager of Infrastructure and Innovation at FightMND in Australia, an Australian-based charity focused on raising awareness of MND, ALS and funding and supporting vital research to improve the quality of life for individuals living with MND and discover treatments and a cure to realise our bold vision of a world without MND. I'd like to welcome you to this first in a series of webinars focused on the Longitude Prize for ALS, called From Idea to Impact. And I thank you so much for making time to be here at this busy time of year. I'll begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, and I also pay respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past and present. The Longitude Prize for ALS is principally funded by Motor Neuron Disease Association and designed and delivered by ChallengeWorks, supported by Nesta, and there are additional funders supporting the prize, including FightMND, Alan Davidson Foundation, My Name's Doddie Foundation, LifeArc, Answer ALS, the Packard Center and the 10,000 Brains Project, making the Longitude Prize for ALS a truly global endeavour. I'd like to introduce and welcome our two presenters today. Tris Dyson from ChallengeWorks, founder and managing director of ChallengeWorks, and Associate Professor Celia Harris from Western Sydney University, who are both experts with incredible knowledge, experiences and insight into the Longitude Prize. We will gain insight into the concept, design and implementation phases, where collaborative multidisciplinary teams are now forming and crafting applications, as well as gaining insight and experiences from a team that has successfully transitioned through various stages of a Longitude Prize and is a finalist in a current Longitude Prize for Dementia. The format of this webinar is Tris will present first on the Longitude Prize for ALS, speaking to design implementation from a ChallengeWorks angle and an ALS perspective, followed by a Q&A session. And this will be followed by a presentation from Associate Professor Harris, who will provide insight from a participant perspective, and a Q&A session with both Celia and Tris will follow. As Tris and Celia present, please type in your questions into the chat. There's a chat tab at the top of the screen, to the left part of the tabs, called chat, and we will convey these for discussions after their presentations. And I'd like to introduce Tris, founding manager, director of ChallengeWorks. Tris has led ChallengeWorks from its origins as a Nesta experiment to being a global hub for expertise and insight on challenge prizes. His aim is to deliver challenge prizes that inspire and enable development of high-impact innovations. And before joining Nesta, Tris co-founded the social enterprise Tempo and was included in the first cohort of the Observer's New Radicals. Tris has also run a Welsh University think tank, founded a social sector consultancy, and was a Teach First geography teacher. And I'll stop sharing and over to you, Tris.
So thanks for the introduction. I should also say I am also a patient with ALS. I was diagnosed about 2.5 years ago, so I also come at it from that angle. I first introduced the idea of a challenge prize. So the original challenge prize was back in 1714, and it was called the Longitude Prize. But basically, there was a big science technology problem of the day, which was how do you measure longitude accurately at sea? Lots of people have tried to solve this problem, Galileo among them, and no one had come up with an effective solution. And that meant that sea navigation around the world was very difficult, very expensive, and very costly in terms of lives and money. And so this competition was launched to whoever could accurately measure longitude at sea. And it resulted in a lot. The H4 marine chronometer by John Harrison, which is a timekeeper that kept time accurately at sea. And this transformed the world. And so this is the idea of a challenge prize, which is you put a problem out into the world with money and publicity, and you search for solutions. So on the next slide, we look at the modern Longitude Prize, which is this time is focused. There's a series of them, and the new one that was launched this summer is focused on AI in target discovery for ALS. It was launched in June in an event in London and an event in Boston. And this is a picture of Lucy Hawking, and she spoke at the London meeting. And she reflected on her father, who 10 years ago at Google Zeitgeist had predicted that AI would soon be able to solve complex diseases, including ALS. And that's the focus of this prize, which is engaging and harnessing AI in helping us to understand and solve ALS. So on the next slide, yeah. So we think that the conditions are now very, very good for ALS and actually for other neurodegenerative diseases. One of which is that the understanding and knowledge of disease has transformed in the last 10, 15 years. So 10, 15 years ago, it was really a black box. Nobody understood very much. And that level of understanding and knowledge has increased significantly. And a large reason for that is because the amount of research funding has grown fivefold since 2015. A lot of which has come from patient advocacy and fundraising. And as we know, or a good example of this is the recent breakthrough for the rare inherited SOD1 form of the disease, a drug called tofersen, which has come out of Biogen, which for some people seems to actually stop the disease, or for others significantly slow it down. But that's obviously for a very small group, the people that have this SOD1 gene. The other thing is that we think that the AI is now at a point at which it's able to handle the complexity of a disease like this. And ALS is multifactorial, it's heterogeneous, and it's because of that complexity it's been so difficult to get to grips with. But it's why we think that these new AI tools, in conjunction with research and disease expertise, should be transformative. The other is big data. So a lot of data sets have been pulled together in countries around the world over the last, again, 10, 15 years. And this is really quite high quality data now, which is important for these AI tools if they're going to be able to come to grips with the disease. And through this prize initiative, we've pulled a lot of those data sets together. So for the first time, this prize is making a huge amount of data available in one place for academics and for commercial players. And we think AI, as we said, has the potential to change the game. So we think, it's often people talk about cancer or cardiovascular diseases, but these are diseases that are very well understood and where there are already existing treatments. So in those cases, AI, we think, will be additive. But in ALS, rather, we think it could be completely transformational because, as we know, there are no real treatments. And so the opportunity for impact is very huge. So on the next slide, we talk about the prize as data. So this is the current data set. As you can see, it's been pulled together through largely European and American data, but we're hoping to add Australian and Asian data sets to it as well. But it's already a large data set, so nearly 10,000 whole genome data sets and 4,000 controls. They will go up, but particularly the control group, we should have access to UK Biobank, so that will go up into the hundreds of thousands. And this will all be available in one harmonized platform for competing teams. And then on the next slide, we can see some of the multi-omics, which are subsets of that whole genomic data set. the transcript optics and epigenomics and proteomics. And again, this is the largest data set of its kind, but we will be adding to it. And please, if you are aware of data sets that should be included, please do let us know. So on the next slide, the prize itself is in a number of stages. So we're currently in the recruitment stage where we are engaging potential teams. So these are people that have the AI tools and the disease expertise that might be able to apply to the prize. And we're also we can help introduce you. Perhaps you have the AI capabilities, but not the disease knowledge, and we can help make those introductions. Applications then are open now, but they close on December the 3rd. And then we select 20 teams, and they receive, this is in US dollars, 135,000 US dollars. And they get access to this data set, and they get compute and other types of support. And their job is to identify novel therapeutic targets. They have 9 months to do so. And then we move into a second round where we down select to 10 teams who receive about $270,000 US. And they need to build evidence base for those targets, again, in silico, but also at that point that needs some lab work. And then we move into a third round for 5 teams with up to 700,000 US dollars, where the job is to validate those targets in the wet lab. And then we'll select a winner who will receive over $1 million US dollars. But at this point, teams will also be supported with access to investment and other types of funding opportunities. So that's the structure of the prize. And then on the next slide, we just have the entrant information. So as I said, we're open now until December the 3rd. We think teams are likely to be multidisciplinary. You certainly at the early stage in the first rounds need the AI expertise, but likely you're going to need neurodegenerative expertise. And as I said, we can facilitate those partnerships if need be. Please do reach out to us. And then yes, teams can register at als.longitudeprize.org.
Thank you, Tris. Really appreciate you running through the dynamics of the prize. I will just ask a few questions about ChallengeWorks itself in terms of the prizes. In terms of, there's a lot of research I gather that comes into selecting what areas to support with regards to innovation. Just an insight into how decisions are made around that, into what areas are going to receive support.
Yeah, so we talked to 2 groups of people with most prizes. We talk to hypothetical innovators to understand what might be possible, and if they think something is possible, what type of incentive structure would potentially engage them. So in this case, we spoke to the research community and to AI first biotech. What do they think that they could achieve within what sort of time frame, and what sort of financial incentives and other things would help them to do that. And then we also spoke to the kind of, I guess, the customer. Obviously, ultimately the customer in this case is the patient, but really and other types of investors. And we're asking them, what would they need to see to be able to invest more fully in drug development, drug discovery? And the answer was credible, validated targets. There are 1 or 2, but there aren't very many. But if you can create more high quality, validated targets, you'll attract more investment. Obviously, teams won't need to necessarily go through the pharma route. Increasingly biotechs are developing drugs themselves, so that's also possible. But anyway, those are the 2 sort of communities that we spoke to. So what's possible what stimulus would be needed to attract people, and what's the kind of demand on the other end, basically.
So why the ALS focus for this prize, for the Longitude Prize now? Like, why ALS now? Why is now the right time for ALS?
Well, partly it's because I'm an ALS patient, so that was the kind of real reason. But you can see with neurodegenerative diseases that things are starting to change. And we can see treatments starting to appear for Alzheimer's. Last week there was a treatment that was announced for Huntington's. For ALS, we now have the SOD1 tofersen treatment. So cracks are appearing in the problem already. And then the other sort of major thing is that that we're at the start of a revolution on using AI tools in drug discovery. I mean, it's hyped up in all sorts of places, AI, but I don't think it's hyped in drug discovery. And so we want to grab that and capture that early on, and direct it towards this problem.
So just another question around AI and being a significant component of the prize, along with data mining and exploring. But in terms of AI and the increasing capacity for AI, how do you see AI advancing research into ALS?
Well, I mean, it has to be a partner. I mean, I think if you ran, a large language model at these data sets without just on its own, it would come up with all sorts of anomalies that would be completely irrelevant. It might find that people with ALS have big noses or something. So it's got to be a partner to people who have deep insight and knowledge of the disease, and who can sort of make sure that it's firing in right directions, and if it's finding stuff that's not relevant, it can redirect it in the right way. So as a partner as a research partner, I think it's got huge amounts of potential. But
quick, one last question before moving on to Celia's presentation. A technical question around how funds are distributed. This is from Gethin Thomas. Are you obliged to distribute the funds if you don't receive any compelling proposals in the unlikely event, given a global it's a global prize but can you roll funds, for example, into a new round based on a different premise?
I don't think we will need to do that, but yeah, we could definitely. There might be some slight, maybe we'd select 19 teams rather than 20. That's possible. And then we would roll the money into something else. But I think there's been quite a lot of interest around the world, so I'd be surprised if in the early stages anyway that.
Right, thanks, Tris. We'll move over to Celia's presentation, and really appreciate your involvement there, Tris. We'll move over to Celia's presentation. Celia is an associate professor in cognitive neuroscience at Western Sydney University, and also at the Marks Institute for Brain Behaviour and Development there. Celia is researching how we bring memories to mind and what kinds of external cues or prompts can enhance our access to memories to improve cognitive and psychological well-being. As a career, Celia completed a PhD at Macquarie University, and was appointed, also had a visit to Aarhus University as a research fellow there at the Centre of Autobiographical Memory Research. And then came back to Macquarie University and as a fellow, and I was awarded an ARC DECRA Fellowship. This is a Discovery Early Career Researcher Award. And in 2020, Celia moved to the Marks Institute as a VC Senior Research Fellow in Cognitive Neuroscience, and was appointed Director of Impact and Engagement at Marks from 2021. some other points is that Associate Professor Harris was named a finalist in the New South Wales Tall Poppy Awards, and of course currently is a finalist in the Longitude Prize for Dementia, developing a memory device called Memory Aid. Celia, thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. And sorry, that's such a long bio as an introduction, so I should have curated my bio before sending it to you. But thank you. Thanks, everyone. Yes, I'm leading a team that is one of 5 finalists now in the Longitude Prize on Dementia, which started in 2023. So I'm just happy to share my experiences with working with ChallengeWorks and being part of a Longitude Prize. I'd never done anything like this before as an academic. So really happy to just share my experiences and answer any questions that people might have from my perspective. I guess just to give you a little bit of background about, what happened for me and my journey with the Longitude Prize. I've been a university academic since 2011. I'm a cognitive scientist. I work on foundational research questions about memory and aging. And when I joined Western Sydney in 2020, I got kind of roped into a project working with a large multinational technology company, industry partner, to understand assistive technology as memory support for people with dementia. And so I guess I'm telling you this because my background's not in tech development or in entrepreneurship. Really, I'm an academic. But what came out of that background research that I did was just, I had this idea rolling around in the back of my head. And the idea was that, we were looking at apps, we were looking at digital tools for people with dementia, what they might use and what they might find useful. And right through COVID, we were collecting data, we were shipping iPads out to our research participants because we couldn't work with them face to face. And I just became convinced that mainstream touchscreen devices were poor technologies for people with dementia. And I had this idea in the back of my head was, what if we built an entirely different kind of hardware device that might be something user-friendly for older people and people with dementia? And that was kind of where I was and where I ended up when I happened to see in January 2023 a post on Twitter 2 days before the deadline for this call for the Longitude Prize on Dementia. And so the call was this, that the text is there, that, really around driving the creation of personalized technology-based tools for people with dementia to use to promote their own independence, for living more fulfilled lives and doing the things they enjoy. And it was intriguing. It was this call, for anyone in the world who thought they had an answer to this wicked problem to pitch. And I thought it was really interesting because it was framed as a wicked problem, and it was exactly the problems that we'd been encountering and talking about with our research participants. So this wicked problem of all the advances that have happened in technology and ubiquitous memory supports that all of us use are not helping people with dementia because they're unsuitable. And so, I had this idea based around the handset phone that was alluded to on the previous slide. And so what we did in January 2023 was I put together a concept proposal and I submitted it. And then in May 2023, we were announced as one of the 23 Discovery Award finalists, semi-finalists in the world. So that first stage. And so really all I entered was with an idea. And at that stage, when we were announced as a semi-finalist, then it was, now I have to turn my idea into a prototype and I have a little bit of money and 12 months to do it. And so what we worked to do in that time then was to build an early prototype of what an assistive device for people with dementia might be like if we asked them what they wanted it to do and if they could interact with it in ways that were intuitive to them. So harnessing this familiar interface of the handset phone as being the main way that you could interact with a digital device that can do all the things a digital device can do that the rest of us use our devices for, like talking to family and friends on the phone, like having prompts and reminders. So we built that early prototype. We did some laboratory testing and some very early stage feasibility trials in people's homes to test whether people would find the handset an easy way to interact with a device. And then we submitted for the final round, and in August 2024, I think it was a bit later, I think it was actually October, they announced the 5 global finalists that are the group that are now competing for the final Longitude Prize. So at that point, that was really exciting. We were one of 5 finalists, And we could see it was recognition of the fact that we were doing something that other people weren't doing, which is building a device designed for people with dementia to actively use. And so there's the announcement there. And so now, that's accelerated us massively. We've gone from a clunky 3D printed first prototype for feasibility testing all the way to an industrial designed manufacturer product. We've founded a startup company that's now licensed the IP from the university. There's our logo there. So in the 18 months or so that we've been working on it, we've just had massive progress because of the prize. And now we're on our way to submitting our final application in November, and the overall winner will be announced next year. So I guess in my final couple of minutes of my 5 minutes, reflecting on sort of what's worked about this process, what's been good about it. I think in some ways this going through the Longitude Prize has been a joy and it's been easy, and that's because there's been a strong alignment of the values and vision. So what the prize set out to achieve and what we were wanting to achieve were the same thing, which is designing something that is co-designed with people with dementia that listens to their priorities. ChallengeWorks and the prize has done an amazing job throughout of really clearly articulating the exact what they're looking for and the criteria that they're assessing us against. And so that's made it easy for us to know whether we're, that aligns with what we're doing. And there's also been really, beyond the funding and that's come with the prize, which is obviously helpful, there's been amazing array of non-financial support, and especially for us as academics sort of moving into an entrepreneurial kind of space, starting up a business. There's been mentoring, there's been networks, there's been massive exposure, there's been independent validation studies. So all that is of massive financial value to our project as well, and helps to ensure our success. For our team, really, it's been about multiple disciplines collaborating closely. So like I said, I'm not a technologist. So the first thing I did when we discovered that the concept had been selected was, find an engineer who could start building me prototypes, and we've been working together. We also assembled an advisory group of end users. So we've been working closely with people with dementia right from the outset, and always informed by their views and their priorities. The milestones of the prize and having that deadline to compete for has just massively accelerated what we're doing. We've gone at an incredible pace, and it's enabled us to leverage other support. So our universities want to support us. Other people want to support us because they want us to win. They want to help us. And the prize has really made commercialization of the device possible, but also a necessary outcome. So the prize is only investing in things that are commercializable because that's how you see impact. So, where previously we might have just done it research for the sake of research, being part of the prize has really put us on that path to commercialization. So what I would recommend is look closely at who the judges are, what the criteria are, and really think about how you fit with the criteria and the priorities of the prize. Is it something for you? I think there's an emphasis on really engaging end users early and meaningfully and throughout. So really being guided by the values and priorities of the communities that you're working with. Planning for real world scalability. So thinking beyond research, but thinking about how you're, feasibly and realistically going to have that real world impact. And thinking about data and ethics. So yeah, I mean, my take homes really are that it's working in this is completely unlike any traditional research grants I've ever worked in. The pace is crazy. It's been fast. And I've needed to quickly build new skills around entrepreneurship and collaboration across disciplines. And it's been a lot of fun. But also anyone can win. And I think that's the other point, and that's the kind of the Longitude spirit is it's a call to anyone who thinks they have a good idea. And so the 5 finalists in the Longitude Prize on Dementia are really different kind of teams. They're from different parts of the world. They are working on really different kinds of solutions. And some of them are university-based, some of them are startups. They're all at different stages. So I think there's a lot of diversity there. And I think, yeah, put your hat in the ring because you never know if it's a good fit. And so that's it from me. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions now and by email too, if anyone has questions about the process or my experiences.
Yeah, thanks, Celia. Wow. I mean, please, I'll just remind you to type questions in the chat as we go through the question and answer phase of the session. I say wow because if I recall your presentation, that you began putting the application together 2 days before the due date.
Yeah,
That would have been slightly hectic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, hectic is how it goes, but it was one of those things where the call just fit. I saw it and I thought, this is for us. This was written for us. Like everything that they're saying about what the problem is and what they're looking for and what the failings have been of what's come before is what we've been saying. And I'm like, I have to do this. This was written for us. So yeah, the fit was just so clear.
Yeah, and in 2 days, I mean, you say the fit was perfect. In terms of collaborative efforts and a multidisciplinary approach, how did you go about forming those collaborative efforts specifically for the prize and the application?
So I'd already been working for a while with a team from Deakin University who are the software and AI experts. So we'd been collaborating together on the foundational project around building prompts and testing prompts for people with dementia. So I had those collaborations already. What we didn't have was any hardware. So we hadn't tried to do anything other than software-based kind of approaches. And I had no idea how I was going to get a hardware solution. I just had this sort of concept. So it was really only after we were announced as winning in the first round, the semi-finals, that I thought, oh, now I need to figure out how I build hardware. And I mean, I'm lucky enough to work in an interdisciplinary research institute where there are biomedical engineers. And I literally walked past somebody in the kitchen and said, hey, do you reckon you can build me a phone that talks to a tablet? And it came from there. So yeah, happenstance and being in the right place at the right time for knowing people. But also we sought out really quickly right at the beginning the other collaborators who are the people with lived experience. And I worked in my networks and, through organizations to recruit people with lived experience who would come on board as advisors to the project. And that's been a really important aspect of the collaboration too.
So I was going to ask you about ChallengeWorks and the assistance they provide during the application phase. I presume in the last 2 days you would have had some assistance, but maybe this is one to throw to Tris as well, with regards to kind of what can applicants assistance can they receive from ChallengeWorks to help craft their application, especially from a team's perspective and putting in and helping form collaborations.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I know there was a lot of support provided. There was information sessions, there was Ask Us Anything webinars, and I didn't engage with any of it because I encountered it too late. I missed, there'd been, months of stuff that I'd missed. So I missed out on support, but Tris, I'm sure, can speak to the support that is available.
Yeah, so for the ALS prize, as you say, there are webinars, particularly on the data. People really need to get to grips with the data side of it. But a lot of them, they're all in videos as well, so you don't need to necessarily have attended the webinar. You can find the YouTube clips and stuff on our website. There are also an innovator handbook that talks things through. We are particularly helping with matchmaking. So if you are, let's say you're an AI company, but you don't have the neurodegenerative expertise, but you think you've got the AI model, please do register on the website and let us know, and then we can help introduce you to people who have that disease expertise, or the other way around. So we're particularly helping with that. The application itself's quite lightweight. It's a prize, not a grant. So the money comes with very few strings, comes with some, but not much. You've got quite a lot of flexibility. And the prize application process is therefore relatively straightforward. There's a little bit more complexity about accessing the data. It consists of lots of different data sets, which require different permissions to get, in order so you can get all of it. So, but we've got streamlined ways of of helping with that. So that will be very much a hand-holding exercise in order to make sure that everyone can access all of the data. And then as you progress through the prize, our job is to really lean in and support. So if you're one of the 20 teams, we will get to know you. We will help you with as much as we can with things that you might need. I think early on in the prize, the emphasis is on the AI, and then later on it moves into the lab. So we expect that there's going to be a skill set shift needed in the third round, and particularly at that point, we've got lab networks around the world that we can support with if people don't have that themselves. Yeah.
In terms of this is open to either of you to answer with your experiences and through being an applicant but also a designer. In terms of transition through the prize, how does that work? Like how does an applicant go from one phase into another? I understand you've got to. I understand that broadly you have a successful kind of progression through the first phase, but in terms of how does it work, what are you looking for? What are the judges looking for teams that do actually transition through to the next phase?
Well, I mean, to begin with, we're looking for the potential and novelty. So that's what we would have seen with Celia's team. We would have seen that she's got that high potential, and she's coming at it from a new and a novel approach that's not been necessarily done elsewhere. But as you go through, it becomes about what you're actually delivering. So the 5 teams in the Dementia Prize have all had to produce workable prototypes that we've then assessed with dementia patients and carers in order to determine their usability and their potential impact, and then teams are selected on that basis. And that's true with the ALS prize as well. So once you get to the second round, we're looking at what targets have you discovered, how credible are they, and what's their potential. And I mean, it's further upstream, so there's less patient engagement with that. Well, there is some, and it's more about what people think is got the highest potential in terms of turning into something that might work as a drug, basically.
Yeah, and I think that parallels in some way my impression with the Longitude Prize on Dementia. You can see how the weighting of the different criteria has changed across the stages as well. So as we get further along, there's more weighting towards, genuine scalability and commercializability. And so it's that emphasis on wanting to see something that really can make a difference sooner rather than later. So, not being too hypothetical or off in the future or too far away from implementation, but that push towards something that, as fast as possible is going to get out there and make a difference.
Yeah, moving to data sets and access to data sets that you were referring to, Tris, what does this bring to the table that hasn't been available previously, like in terms of this accessibility to a vast array of data sets? What does this bring to the table for ALS research?
Well, it's quite a big difference, I think, for most people. So all of the people may have engaged with the individual data sets, but we've put them all in one place and we've harmonized them. There's a lot of North American data in there that you can relatively easily access on a case by case, on an individual basis, because North America's got a very open attitude towards data sharing. The European data, though, is been much trickier for people to access in the past because of GDPR regulations and various other things. This is particularly true if you're a commercial entity. It's been easier if you're a research institution, university. So yeah, I mean, to be clear, we haven't created any new data. This is all data sets that have been pulled together, amazing efforts by people around the world, but we brought it together into one in TRE basically, and that's quite a big deal, I think, for some of these AI power tools.
And last question on advice from your perspectives, advice on what would a strong application would look like, or any tips to strengthen applications, and things to consider for applicants putting applications through.
Well, I mean, again, for the ALS Prize, we're looking for novelty. So, we don't want people identifying targets that are already well understood and well known. So we're looking for the novelty in terms of the AI methodology, and in terms of its ability to identify new and novel targets. Doesn't mean that no one's ever looked at these targets. It might be that someone's done a PhD at some point but they're not well known or well evidenced targets. And then it needs to be interdisciplinary. So in the first rounds, it's largely about this AI capability, but you'll need some disease expertise to make sure that it's aiming in the right direction, essentially. Yeah, I think those are the sort of principal things at the first round. Yeah.
So disease expertise, but also bringing in a multidisciplinary approach. I gather collaboration and innovative, not replication of something that already exists. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's quite different topic than my topic really, but yeah, it's just looking closely at the criteria like anything, and the judging panel and people tell you what they're looking for. They tell you what their priorities are. So making sure that the work you're doing is aligned well with that.
Yeah. Right. Thanks, Celia. Thank you, Tris. With that, I'd like to say a big thank you to you both for being with us today and sharing your insights and expertise into the Longitude Prize, and in this case, Longitude Prize for ALS. I'll just really emphasise that it's not too late to form teams, put in applications, as we have heard from Celia, especially. Just pointing out the due dates, the applications for the stage 1, the Discover stage, do close on the 3rd of December 2025 at 3 o'clock GMT. So the situation's starting to get quite urgent in forming teams, collaborations. Keep forming your teams, ensuring a multidisciplinary approach. Reach out to ChallengeWorks with questions on the prize. There's the QR code to the right there, and leading to the website ALS longitudeprize.org. Reach out to ChallengeWorks to help form your collaborative multidisciplinary teams as well. Again, many thanks for being with us today, and ensure you join us for our second Longitude Prize for ALS webinar on November 6th, where we'll hear from Professor Amal Shalabi from King's College London, Sophie Nieberg from the MND Association. So appreciate you being here, and goodbye.